All right. Well, here we are. Didn't see that coming. I know some people feel like maybe we should have already in the chat with some strong takes. Wow, just wow. 10-7, not winning another game this season. Worst loss in franchise history. It feels like it right now, right? Oof, you lost to the Lions. Is the Cardinals season over? Oh, time to move on from Cliff and Vance. And thanks, Simon, for mentioning this. If you haven't seen it, I had a live stream with Brett Coleman Friday, and it was great. He had a lot of great things to say. Right now, is the way we're feeling about this team right now. We may not want to hear some of the things he had to say because he was pretty optimistic. But yeah, it's one game, right? Calvin wouldn't call it a devastating loss, but it ranks up there. I'll be interested to see how the Cardinals respond. So there's a lot to talk about. And yeah, so I was thinking about how to approach today's stream. If you've watched enough of my channel, my shows, I tend to be a little bit more of an optimistic, try to be this balance between being practical, but seeing the bright side. And I'm probably still going to be a little more optimistic than some fans, but there's a lot of things to be frustrated about with this loss. And so I think my goal for the stream, the way my intent is a couple of things. One, just kind of a group therapy session for us all to kind of get out how we're feeling about this. I have my opinions, but I know a lot of people have strong feelings about what's going on. Yeah, optimistic but realistic. Yeah, well, how do I do that, right, Grant? Is I try to look at what could happen and present the possible positive outcomes, but still try to not go crazy like, oh, the Cardinals are gonna go 17-0. But that's my approach. But what I want to do today is let us get our thoughts out, the things we're frustrated about, what went wrong, how we're feeling. I am going to try. I know, someone tweeted at me, can you help talk me off the ledge on this one? Because they're feeling really bad about where the Cardinals are at. I am going to try to present the case for why we shouldn't panic. I am not necessarily going to say that sort of positive best case scenario is where things are at. So when I present that case, don't necessarily argue with me and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not even necessarily saying that's exactly how I feel. But I will try to present the case for not panicking and believing that maybe this thing could still get right. I'm maybe a little less optimistic right now than that best case scenario, but so we're gonna kind of this is gonna be a lot of your comments and things, kind of talking about what went wrong and things like that. So and then we're also going to get folks who are channel members have the opportunity to jump on, say their piece. And in fact, we've only got one channel member backstage, so we'll get to him in a moment. Let me real quick say hey to the folks that are here. If I haven't already, I already mentioned to some of you, brought up some of your comments. So if I missed it, I want to apologize. But some of the folks, let's see, Calvin, I think I already brought your comment up. Thank you for being here. Niner Sickness Podcast, Beto's a good guy. If you aren't subscribed, check out his stuff. He does Niner stuff, but good dude. I've been on his stream with him. Hey, watch your back. The Rams are not going to. You know what? You're right, man. I'm not nearly as optimistic that the Cardinals are going to win this division. In fact, right now with the way that things are going, I wouldn't. If I had to maybe place some Vegas bets, I might be as the team that I'd be looking at. Polar Bears here, thank you for being here. I do think a lot of people will react to this loss. I mean, I do think so too. And it's good teams have lost to bad teams like this before, but we need to also be realistic about that. This is not a good sign, right? Split Kingsbury, Rodney Hutman, having him out was definitely part of it, right? No Rodney means no protection. And listen, we saw that, right? That was a problem. They got pressure all day on the Cardinals. There were only 2 sacks, I believe, but they were getting pressure on Kyler a lot. The Rams, the Lions had 2 sacks, but you saw that there was pressure all day. Let's see. If I miss anyone, I will apologize, but I'm trying to just say hey to all the folks that are here. Jordan P., Marco Wilson, so bad it's time to bench him for Hamilton. Maybe. He struggled, that's for sure. And Hamilton has played pretty well at points, so maybe. Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell, right? Let's see who else is here that I haven't said hey to. I think I said hey to Pulver. Jay in the Bay. Jay's another really good dude who's a Niners podcaster, though he's maybe here to gloat a little bit. Hot diggity dog. It's not, not a good day for the Cardinals. What's good? Jay in the Bay. Today it's not the Cardinals that are good, though. Aaron Van Buren, thanks for being here. Stream not working for anyone else? Hopefully, I hope the stream's working. Let me know if you all see me. Give me a thumbs up or something. Hopefully there's not any problems. Let's see. Simon's here. Thank you for being here. I think we're put one of your comments up there. All right. So question for you all. What do you think was the biggest thing that led to this loss? What was there was a lot of things that would get wrong, but what do you think was the biggest issue that contributed to this disappointing loss for the Cardinals? Okay, thank you, Grenades. I appreciate you giving me the confirmation. So I'm here. Spliff has been saying Rodney and blowing up the chat with Rodney. So I think Rodney to you is the big deal. Which Class Nasty, thank you for being here. So Rodney and the O line with that. Okay. No run defense. That's been a story all season, right? That continues to be an issue. No pressure on Goff and couldn't stop the run. They did manage 2 sacks, but it did not feel like that pressure was consistent, right? It felt like he had a lot of time. So that certainly seems like part of it. O-line, defense, we're tied for the biggest issues. Okay. We honestly go and witness I'm assuming you mean for the remainder of the season. There's some tough games, right? Cowboys and Colts are both talented teams. The Seahawks obviously are struggling, but it's the way this Cardinals team is playing. It wouldn't shock me if they lost to the Seahawks, right? So that's for sure. Paul, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you. Craig Reynolds, new Barry Sanders of the NFL. Yeah, they made him look like it, didn't they? Let's see. They were awful. The constant pressure Kyler had was awful. Yeah. Let's see. Rodney is the key to the entire offense. He gets everyone on the same page and calls out everything, protection, who's coming, who's bluffing. Listen, we've seen games where he's been out earlier this season and they really struggled. I think, offensive line, because you don't really see stats for offensive linemen. It's easy for fans not to recognize or see how important that is. But, when that Cardinals offense is going, and really working, a lot of it has to do with that offensive line, giving them time and the holes that the running backs need. So having him out is definitely a big issue. I'll tell you, I think Kyler, and I said this, I was on the AZ Sports Fans stream earlier with him after the game. Kyler, something's not right with Kyler throwing the ball right now. The injury he had was a high ankle sprain, and when he came back in the Bears game, he looked good running the ball, and it seemed like he was back. But like the last 2 weeks, right? Last week and this week, his throws were off. He was missing open receivers. He was missing throws he would make earlier in the season. He had those bad interceptions. And although he only threw 1 interception this game, there were just a lot of balls where he just didn't put the ball in the right spot for the receiver. He made a few decent throws, no doubt, but a lot of what should have been easy throws. So I'm not sure what's going on there. That's definitely a concern, right? With what's going on with Kyler. So I'm a little concerned. At the same time, the question is, what's the cause of that? Because Kyler looked so good earlier in the season, right? And then now he's struggled. So if it's just a matter of he's rusty from missing those 3 games still, well, then there's maybe some time for him to get that right, between now and the playoffs. If it's that he's still recovering from an injury and something about that ankle is still getting him off a little bit, maybe. If he's a little banged up, maybe there's time to get that right. But if it's something between the ears where he's really struggling because he's pressing too hard, maybe that's a little more something to be worried about. I don't know. Hopefully he can get that right. Polar Bear is saying the injury problem threw everything off for him. So, if that's what it is, I mean, there's the hope that he's got the next 3 games to kind of work that out. So I don't know, but yeah. Last 2 games, he's been under heavy duress, so that's a huge factor in being off. Yeah, and that matters too, right? So maybe it has to do with what's going on with the offensive line. Getting whenever we're able to get Hudson back, hopefully that can help fix that. But it's something to be concerned, right? Now Nick says he doesn't think Kyler is the answer. I'm gonna, obviously, we all have different views and opinions. I do think he is the answer. I just, he's played overall this year still like one of the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks in the NFL, and at points even higher. And he struggled recently, no doubt. But if you step back and look at other teams around the league, like even really good quarterbacks in other teams have some bad stretches and bad games. I just think I get we're all kind of in our feelings right now about how this game went, but when we step back, I think, and you compare what other quarterbacks look at Matt Stafford, the team, that right now it looks like we're worried about for winning the division. He had a couple really bad games with pick sixes and stuff. So, I mean, that's my opinion. Again, we all have, our different opinions. All right. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. So he's got a question. Is this a career defining loss for Murray? So, I don't think it is. I really don't. And I know right now, and Aaron, you said earlier, that's like, said that you described this as the worst loss in franchise history. I wouldn't call it the worst loss in franchise history. I seem to remember a 50-something-0 complete blowout drubbing at the hands of Seattle a few years back. That even though the Cardinals weren't supposed to be a better team, it was just really bad. But I don't think it is. Now, listen, the future will determine that. I think he's got a lot of years left, and I think he's going to have a lot more really good wins too. And I don't think this loss is going to define his career. So I don't think so. I feel like that's maybe a little bit of hyperbole. Again, I get how we're feeling right now. So my opinion is no. You may feel differently, and that's obviously okay. Underscore NFL, thanks for being here. If Cardinals beat the Colts, 1 stop the run, 2 beat Colts team that beat Pats, 3 home game win, does this change your mind on this team? How are we bouncing back from a bad loss? I mean, if the Cardinals come out, to me, if the Cardinals come out and win 2 of the next 3 games, and the one they lose is not an ugly blowout, it's a game where they're competitive and they win 2 of the next 3, and you get Hudson back for the playoffs, or he's healthy by then, I'm going to be more optimistic if that happens. But that's for me to feel like, okay, I'm feeling more optimistic about this team as a team that might have a chance in the playoffs. I feel like I need to see them win 2 of the next 3 games. And, Kyler needs to be healthy and Hudson needs to be healthy. Obviously, we'd love to have Hopkins back. He's not going to be back till the reports are if the Cardinals were to make it all, to the NFC Championship game, he might be available then, or the Super Bowl, obviously big if. But as great, Hopkins may be their best player, or he's up there. If he's not their best player, he's up there. But because of their depth at wide receiver, I think it's less. He's less vital than Hudson is, for example. And I don't want that to sound like a slight at Hopkins. He's amazing, but they can move the ball without Hopkins. They really struggle without Hudson. And I feel like my stream I keep getting the loading screen. If there's issues, just know I've just kind of done a few things like set up a new internet connection. So if there's any issues, I apologize for that. But so let's see. Let's look at a couple other questions and comments here. But thank you, Aaron, for the super chat, and thank you, _ for your question. For any QB to be good, they need to be a damn line to block. I mean, and that's the thing, right? So with that's part of the reason I'm not bailing on Kyler. I mean, I think he's with a decent offensive line and a healthy offensive line. I think he had, I think we'll see back what we saw before, but he's too short and throw way too many INTs. Well, I don't think he throws way too many INTs if you look at his career. He is short, and that sometimes comes into play. But, I mean, he's got 19 touchdowns and 9 interceptions going into this game. I don't know. Maybe I guess it's 20 and 10. I don't think that – I mean, I'd like to see him cut back on it, but I don't know if I'd say too many. He throws more INTs than I like. But if you got a quarterback who can throw, who throws – 10 or 12 in a season, but throws, 20 plus something touchdowns, that's, I don't think that's too many. You'd like to see less, but there's a lot of quarterbacks who throw 10 to 12 INTs. So we'll see though, what he ends up with this season. Let's see. I saw some really poor play calling on both sides. That was a play where Phillips got beat playing coverage. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the play calling real quick. Again, I mentioned earlier that Brett Coleman did a live stream with her Friday. It was had a really great time, and he's such a gracious guest, and really appreciate him being here. And I asked him about Cliff, and I asked him, and he talked about both his play design, his play calling, because those are two different things, right? You have your play design, the scheme that you set up, the blocks, the move, all the movement, the things you design. That's the play design, but then you have the play calling. It's you've got all these plays you've designed, but it's which plays do you call in which situations. And I asked Brett, what his thoughts were on Cliff, and his take from all his film study is that Cliff Kingsbury is in the upper echelon in terms of play design. He's one of the best play designers in the NFL, but an area where it seems like he needs some work, and maybe a lot of work, you could argue, is what Brett Coleman called sequencing, the which plays you call when. And I do think that play calling is an area where he's got to make some improvements. I do think he's improved since his first year in that, but not enough. There were just, I tweeted this out, like when they were in that goal to go situation, I think in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken, they had like 3 or 4 plays, and none of them were run with James Conner in that goal to go situation. And to me, it's just baffling that you would have a 1st and goal and not at least run with Conner one time in that series. Give him that first down carry. Maybe he only gets 2 yards, but he has been so good this year. Give him at least one shot, ideally more, but at least one shot in that goal line situation. Don't do, 3 or 4 plays that are all jet sweeps and screen passes and things like that. At least get Conner one touch there, and he didn't. And they didn't run the ball enough in the first half. And you saw in the second half, they came out in the third quarter and ran the ball really well in that one drive. And now they ended up not capitalizing on it, but you saw the difference when they were running the ball. So I think there's just some issues with the play calling, maybe a little too cute at times, and that's where we got to see some improvement, in my opinion. Yeah, something just isn't clicking. Absolutely. Something is not clicking with them at all right now. I mean, and it's tough because they were bad in so many facets of the game, offense and defense. So 100%. This team plays better as the Dogs when they're big favorites. Maybe. I mean, that's how it's felt, right? Jordan P. Josh Allen lost to the Jags. Rodgers got smoked by the Saints. Brady got smoked by the Saints. Do they all? Then that's absolutely, Jordan. That's kind of my point here, right? And I get we're all frustrated right now, so it's okay to vent. But if you take a step back and look at the big picture, every team at some point has a game like this. Even when if you look at all the teams that have had stretches of being a good team, they've had a game where they lose to a team they shouldn't lose to, and they lose in a way that's ugly. If you look at every great quarterback, they have some bad games. It happens. Now, great. The great ones have fewer than the others, no doubt. But on this, Grandizer, Joseph, do you think this game where the Lions just match up with the Cards, a fluke loss by Cards? Okay, so, you're asking, is this, I know that, for example, there are some games where just the way the teams are constructed and the way they do their game plans and the type of offense and defense they run are just better matchups or worse matchups. So, so if I'm understanding your question, Grandizer, what you're asking is this just a situation where the Lions are a bad matchup? I don't think it is. I think this is the Cardinals came out really laid an egg, because if you look at it, like you look at a team that is a bad matchup. Well, we're coming up against the Colts, a team with a really good running back. Then we're coming up against another team, the Cowboys, that also is another bad matchup, right? And when you add to it, these are both teams with monsters in the trenches. Like you look at like the offensive linemen that they have, the guards that they have on those teams. So those are bad matchups. This is a team that was starting like a third string running back. I think they don't have the talent to be. They're 2-11-1. So I don't think this was just a matter of a bad matchup. I think the offensive line struggled, the run defense struggled, Kyler struggled. It was, and the play calling, I think, was really rough. So so I don't think this was a matchup issue. I really think Cardinals came out and really stunk the place up. That's my take. Kyler Murray last 3 games, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it's been rough. He's had a really rough stretch, no doubt. Absolutely. Kyler has always had an alpha on the outside at Allen High School, Jim Guyton at OU, CD Lamb. Yeah, and maybe, and maybe that's part of what he's missing maybe we're underselling what the Hopkins injury means. Possibly. I do think it has more to do with the offensive line though, with his struggles, but yeah. All right. Arizona Animal, never one to mince words. Fire everyone, move the team, burn the building. I know that's how some folks are feeling right now, right? Cliff is the guy with the game plan. I say 70-30, mostly his fault. Example, if the passing game is a hard time being effective, why don't we use Connor? Connor had 2 carries. Yeah. Listen, I think I do think I probably put in my opinion, most of the onus for this loss on Cliff, because I think he didn't run the ball enough. I think, Kyler was struggling. So if Kyler's struggling with ball placement, run the ball more, and you have the guys who can run the ball. And I don't know. I really wish they would have gone out with a much more run heavy offensive game plan. Get Connor. They look how good Connor and Edmonds looked in the third quarter when they finally started running the ball. And when you have issues with the offensive line, and if Aaron is still here, he played offensive line, so maybe he can kind of confirm this or tell me if I'm crazy here. But one of the things I've always heard is that offensive linemen prefer run blocking to pass blocking, because pass blocking, it's almost like you're playing defensively. You're kind of letting the action come to you, and then you get on your heels. Sometimes you get pushed over. Run blocking, you are the aggressor as an offensive lineman. You are the one that's pushing, trying to make the holes. You are trying to dictate what's going on. Whereas when you're the pass blocking, you're a little more trying to react to what the defensive line's doing. So if your offensive line is banged up and, you don't have, Rodney Hudson in there and the line's getting pressure, run the ball, let those offensive linemen do the thing that they're going to feel more, empowered to do, being, getting the ball going like that. So so I think there's just so many reasons why I think the play calling in this really set the game up to be bad. I think some of it's on Kyler in terms of his throws. I get that some of that comes back to not having enough protection, but he missed some throws that he would make. But again, if you had a game plan that was more effective, that would have been less of an issue. So that's kind of my take. Run the ball early and effing, yeah. Paul says Jonathan Taylor owns 3 of the top 5 fastest speeds in the NFL. Our line is so suspect. And so, that's going to be a really tough matchup, right? 100%. Do we have an inability to play from behind? Great question. I don't think We have an inability to play from behind. But let's just real quick, what playing from behind looks, what that game script looks like. Okay, when you're playing from behind on the defensive side of the ball, okay, the other team is like, if especially later in the game, they're going to run the ball more, right? Because they're trying to milk the clock. So on that side of things, we all know the Cardinals' run defense is one of its biggest weaknesses. So game script wise, that already puts us behind the 8 ball, right? When we're playing from behind, the other team is going to, lean into the thing that the Cardinals are worst at defending. Now, on the offensive side, when you're playing from behind, then what you need to be able to do is make big plays, pass the ball effectively, sustain drives. That's an area where, when they're not having a game like this, where we're completely, the bed, that's when the Cardinals, I do think, have a favorable ability. Like, this offense can sustain drives, obviously not today, but typically they can sustain drives and make big plays. So on the offensive side, they have what it takes to play from behind. But on the defensive side, that game script really struggles for them. So, they did play from behind and managed to win in the Minnesota game, though, as we know, they got really lucky in that one. They managed to, in the Green Bay game, they lost, but they did play from behind and, gave themselves a puncher's chance in that one. We all know how that ended. So I don't think they have an inability to play from behind. But I will say, as the game scripts go, that they are much better at playing from a lead than from behind, because as much as, we want to talk about Cliff's play calling, how problematic it's been, what he has shown an ability and willingness to do this year is, when they are ahead, he has been running the ball, which is something he didn't do in the past. So, and then you add to that, so when they're playing ahead, from the defensive side, their pass defense typically is better than their run defense. I get that today it was bad, but their pass defense has been good. So in terms of what they're good at, they are much better suited to playing from ahead than they are from behind. But they can get back in the games offensively. It's their defense that struggles when the other team's, getting into the running of the ball. Great question though. Let's see. Time to bench Hicks as well. He's horrible, especially against the run. More than half the big runs come from him being out. Yeah, I mean, that's been a big question, a topic, and I think Hicks probably does some things on, as that quarterback on the defense, that they like him in there in terms of the same way Hudson does certain things and getting things set up, and that's probably why he's in there. But he has been a step slow, and he struggled, it seems, against the run. And Zaven's, Collins is better at that. So, I wish I am baffled why we don't see more Collins, but yeah, I would like to see more of him in there. Yeah, okay. I'm glad I got your question right. Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see. DUS63. Do you think AJ Green will be a liability in this 2 or 3 games with? I don't think so. I know people are really frustrated with AJ Green, and he's, I get, the Green Bay game, that was really rough, and but he's also made some big plays. I mean, there's been like 4 or 5 plays where deep down the field, he's made those kind of 50-50 ball catches. He had one today on that scramble drill from Kyler. So I think Green's actually been pretty good as a number 2 receiver. I know he's had a few plays, but that have kind of really been frustrating. But overall, I mean, I think he's been decent. So I don't think he'll be a liability. I don't. He's no Hopkins. That's the problem. Is it is a major downgrade from Hopkins. But yeah. Why are you coming out throwing the ball when Hudson is out? Yeah, I mean, listen. We talking about it. Run the ball, right? Yeah. Okay. Same question. I mean, they were a little out of sync, but some of that's also on Kyler. So I don't know. Yeah. What are the chances of Joseph goes back to playing traditional defense where the linebacker shoots a gap, takes a run, and returning the safeties to traditional roles? I don't think he's going to change. I don't think he's going to change up what he does drastically. I think the only things we might see him do some things to compensate for some injuries, like with Robert Alford being out. We might see some more. And this isn't good for the run defense. It wouldn't shock me if we saw more, sets with nickel and even dime looks, with more defensive backs in there. But I don't think so. I just don't think he's going to totally change what they're doing at this point in the game drastically. So that's my opinion, but it'll be interesting to see. Good questions over, Wolf. Appreciate that. So DJ, they need to address the guard position draft badly. I mean, yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that they should get a guard in this draft. I think they need at least one guard in the first 3 rounds. That's my opinion. I think obviously Hudson, we need him healthy, but he's still going to be, he still should be able to play for a couple more years at least. And I think, Humphreys is good. I think Beacham's a good player. He had a little bit of a rough game, but I think they need some help at the guard position. Yeah, I think you're right. Ruben Ortiz. No, we were down 20-7. The Vikings came back and won the same Jack. Yeah, that's right. We played from behind, and that's the question about, do they struggle? Can they not play from behind? They can, but the game script isn't as advantageous, right? Asking which I'm most at fault this game. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear if Aaron's still here, his thoughts on that. I'm not sure if he's still here. Yeah, Garcia struggled with that one snap for sure. Let's see. Jordan, okay, you've got the question, and this might be a good segue. Only reason not jump off the ledge is this: since 70, after a minimum of 8 games, the only 2 teams at the best NFL record lost their team with the worst record won the Super Bowl last year. Okay, that's an interesting kind of history. I think those kinds of historical oddities are interesting. I don't place a lot of predictive ability, predictive qualities and things like that. But if anything, it shows that it's not, but it does show that, like, hey, that happens sometimes, right? Let's see, a couple more comments. Underscore NFL. I believe the Cardinals players all had too much of a good time on that new play and got them. Maybe I know we saw that in the on social media, that new plane, right? So I don't know. Sell the plane, yeah. Let's see. Packers will win 31-30. Ravens miss 2-point conversion. Okay, interesting. Okay. Let's see. One good thing was a 3rd-9 throw Murray made. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There were a couple good throws, right? For sure. But there were a lot of bad ones, unfortunately. The strength of this defense is its versatility, but that means they ain't good at one thing, aka run deep, move Isaiah outside linebacker. He has no feel and doesn't want to eat the block. Yeah, I don't know. They have been good against the pass. I will say that. They're versatile, but this game, I get it. They weren't, and maybe they might not. They might continue to struggle with Alfred being out, but they've actually been in the yards allowed up to this game. They were like in the top 6 or 7 in terms of yards allowed against the pass, and in terms of not allowing a lot, fewest yards. And you have to remember, having a 10 and now 4 record. There have been a lot of games where teams were playing from behind and trying to pass. So I think they are. I do think they've been a good pass defense, but we'll see if it continues with the injuries, right? If D Hop can't become Tyrone's reincarnated, then we're set first round defeat. Maybe, right? A guard is what will be left if they draft in the 20s or 30s. College linemen are struggling for the most part. They're not near strong enough. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm going to apologize. Mark has patiently been sitting backstage, and I got so into the stream that he's just sitting there. So we're gonna bring in Mark Jackson to give his thoughts. Thanks for being so patient, Mark. I almost forgot you're there. My bad.
That's all right, man. It's all right.
How you feeling, man?
I don't want to be the skeptic that I was last year. I really don't. I mean, honestly, I'm seeing everything that's happened last year happening right now, and it's not good. It's hard for me to put it in words. It's been bad. It's been really bad. Last 2 weeks have been really bad.
Yeah, it seems very familiar, doesn't it? I mean,
unfortunately, it does. Honestly, I think they should have done a little bit more dink and dunk to get Kyler into the rhythm a little bit better, way sooner than the 3rd quarter. It's just been bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's tough because last year, they lost the 2 games against San Francisco and the Rams, and they just needed to win one of those to get in the playoffs. Except you could argue this is even more disappointing because this team is supposed to be really good this year. And we had, these last 2 games, a seemingly healthy Kyler Murray, right? And those games
Right.
against the Rams in San Francisco, he was banged up. So it's like, at least those games, maybe you give. But with this one, Kyler's in there, right? And I get there's other injuries, but against a
Our
1-11, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying against a 1-11-1 team with Kyler healthy, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, our O-line did not do what they had to do, which was block. And I mean, our run game didn't even look good until, the third quarter. And that's because they already had us on the brinks. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why were they going to protect the run at that point in time? I mean, there's no need to. So
yeah, that's
anyway,
a good point. Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Mark. No, and that
Ooh. They're showing food.
Yes. Awesome.
So, like I said, the wife's here.
Yeah. Hello. And that's a really, good point. I mean, that they ran well in the second half, but
right.
The Lions were probably playing against the pass, right? And
and they really needed to, in my opinion, they should have dinked and dunked way earlier, like midway through the second quarter, and got Kyler in the rhythm. But then he threw that pick, and his mind was gone at that point in time. So I mean, you could see him on the sidelines just looking defeated.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good.
So what do you think? I mean, what do you think, and where do you think this is going the rest of the season?
Honestly, I want to stay positive, and it's really hard to. And you know me, I'm the biggest skeptic of this team, and really look at the bad, and I really want to look at the good. So honestly, it's not good. It's not good. We're going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be really, really tough. But hey, you know what? Even if we make the playoffs and we're on the road all the time,
yeah, hopefully
it might be good.
Maybe. So let me ask you this. And I appreciate, you were a really big skeptic coming into the season, and then they started to win you over, and to your credit, you gave them a chance there. And now, so let's say they win one more game this season, right? Only one more. And then and then they're one and done in the playoffs. Let's say that's how it plays out. Okay. Let's say they beat Seattle, lose first round of the playoffs. Where are you in terms of how you feel about this team as far as the future? Are you in the fire Cliff, move on from Kyler, fire Keim, burn it down camp? Are you?
No, I'm not in the burn it down camp at all.
Yeah.
Really, I think Kyler's going to be our guy for the next 10 years. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And well, at least 5 years. Okay, I'll give him 5 years. But as far as Keim, no, I don't think that he'll go either. Cliff, I mean, I live in the Texas Tech area, so I've seen Cliff for 5 years before, and I didn't want him as our coach anyway. So because I saw all that,
right.
No, I don't think Cliff is going to make it through this year if we go one and done.
Okay, you think he'll be gone?
I honestly, I do, and I think he needs one more year. I really do think he needs one more year at this level. I mean, God.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating, right?
Yeah,
it's really frustrating. Any other thoughts you want to leave the folks with? Appreciate your jumping on. I appreciate you being such a great supporter of the channel. Any other thoughts about the game or where the Cardinals are at?
I just think that we need to get more healthy. Once we get more healthy, we'll be okay. The injuries have been killing us lately. and it's not been good. I mean, everybody has injuries. We should be doing better. I think we have the depth, but it's not showing for some odd reason, and I think that's more coaching than anything else.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Mark, I appreciate you. As always, thank you for jumping on. Thank you for everything you do to support the channel. And enjoy the meal.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right. See you later, Mark. All right. So, yeah, it's tough, right? With where things are at. So tonight we're all Bucks fans. I have to look at the scores, see how they're doing, what's going on there. But let's see. So the Bucks Saints. So we want the Bucks to win because I don't know. So the Packers are up. So yeah. All right. So let me get back to the comments here. Say hey to some of the folks that are in here. I get Jalen Thompson has been a breakout, but he's let up big plays. Yeah, I mean I think he's also had some really good plays for us. So I think like all the defense has been a little hit or miss, but yeah. Want to say also real quick special. Hey, let's see. We got Walter Mitchell. Thank you for being here, Walter. Listen, if you want to jump in here, Walter does a great podcast and does some blog writing. Walter, I'm going to send you if you want to jump on here, I will send you a link in. I'm going to send it to you in DMs on Twitter. So if you want, Walter, you're definitely would love to have you on here if you want to jump on. But yeah, thank you for being in here. Yes. So there you go. If you check in Twitter, you'll find a link that'll get you on here. I've done some podcasts with Walter. He's a great dude, really knows his Cardinals. So let's get some of the other comments in here while we're waiting for him to jump on. Even David Culley and the Texans were able to beat Lions. I mean, man. The Lions took us down at the kneecap, right? The great Dan Campbell quote there, the kneecaps 100%. The fact that we're all of a sudden wanting the Packers and the Bucks to win, like what? Oh man, that's what happens, right? When you get to a situation where you're no longer controlling things, then that's not a good feeling to be in that situation where you are not in control, right? Where you need other teams to do things, right? And you love being in the position the Cardinals were in the first part of the season where where they just need to where it's up to, if they keep winning, they control their destiny, right? And now, they still can make the playoffs that way, but now in terms of like the number one seed or even winning the division, their own division, it's starting to get to where you need other teams to do some things, right? So yeah, that's kind of frustrating. New goal, stay healthy into the playoffs, 100%. I mean, if this team can get healthy, especially Hudson, that's really the big key. I mean, you're not going to get Hopkins back before late in the playoffs. And I'm not sure where things are right now with, Robert Alford's health, but if you can get Hudson healthy and not lose other players' injuries, I think this team has a chance, but yeah, for sure. That's a big concern. And yeah, Detroit was banged up too, right? I mean, 100%, so that's also a problem. Time to replace Kyle Trace Massero next season? I don't think so, but I understand the feeling, right? We're all frustrated right now. But yeah, Urban Meyer is a freak. No. And Firecliff. No, listen, I get that we all, Thompson needs to do better in coverage. Yeah, there's some issues there. Yeah. Oh, if Bucks okay, there we go. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for clarifying that. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, then I guess sure, hope for I guess we're rooting for them to win for that reason. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, the chat has officially spiraled into chaos. Yeah, that's what a game like this will do for you, right? Okay. Well, no worries about that. Let's see. Jose, thank you for being here. Hello, Joseph. I wish we could have called more run plays, but hey, what do I know? No, listen, you're absolutely right. We talked about that earlier in this, right? That there were just the run plays not enough. They needed to call them earlier, and that was a big problem. So I agree with you, and I think a lot of people in the chat agree with you that that was a big part of the problem right there. Mark Jackson's wife says hi and thank you. Hi, Mark Jackson's wife, and thank you. Yeah, okay, yep, you're clarifying that. Thank you. Do you think Isabella see the field with Hopkins out? Do you think that Kirk and AJ can carry the load as wide receivers 1 and 2? I do not think we're going to see Isabella unless there are more injuries. I mean, the only reason we saw him on the field tonight was because where the game was at, right? The game was out of hand and they brought him in. I don't think we're going to see him unless there's another injury. Isabella, that's my opinion. We'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But that's my take. Tim, aloha from Hawaii. Appreciate you, Tim. Really consistent and great supporter of the channel. Appreciate you, Tim. Tim is also part of our Discord, which is a chance to plug the Discord. If we have a Discord, we're usually during, there are a bunch of us in there during game chat, just to kind of, commenting. And today was, maybe a less fun kind of Discord day because of the way the game went. But there's always news, information, updates in the Discord. It's a good group. So there's a link below, so in the description. So if you aren't already a member, consider jumping in there. Jordan P. Also, did you hear K1 press conference? He said, when you don't give a team respect, this is what, then didn't finish his sentence. He's saying our guys pregame were cocky and didn't respect them. I mean, that's what it's feeling like, right? I mean, that's, potentially, right? It seems like maybe that's part of what it is. Maybe they didn't come in with the right mindset. I don't know, Hope everyone's having an awesome holiday season. Stay cool, people. Hey, appreciate you, so Wolf. You'll always appreciate you being in here. So thank you. Let's see. Last week you brought desperation this team has when we're down, and this is one of the few issues today. Okay, yeah. Something wasn't working when they were playing from behind. Is Isabella that bad? I don't think he's as bad as we think he is, but here's what I think is part of the problem. I think he's maybe not the right fit for Cliff's offense. I mean, he's more an outside receiver than he is a slot receiver, even though he's small. But Cliff seems like his big outside receivers. I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna go somewhere else and maybe see the field, but I don't think he's going to be anything special. But I think there's a lot of people who think he's the worst receiver ever, and I don't think he's that bad. But he certainly hasn't gotten in there. So let's see. It's not that bad, guys. Don't worry. Thank you. And Devin, I think this is a great segue. And I'll come back to the questions and comments after this. I want to quickly talk about, I'm going to present what I think is like the case for not panicking and right now. Okay. And a lot of the points have been made here earlier, and I'm not necessarily saying this is exactly where I think they're at. Like I said earlier, I am worried with some things that I've seen, but the case for not panicking. Okay. One, this team is missing probably one of the most kind of quietly most important players right now, and that's Rodney Hudson. And he does not, at least at this point, he's not out with like injury that is projecting to keep him out in the playoffs. Hopefully, knock on wood, it doesn't, go that direction. And when he's healthy, things look different, right? They also have a couple games to get this sorted out, and there are some really talented players on this team. And this is a team that has won 10 games already, as bad as things have felt. If they can get Hudson back, get a little bit healthier, not lose other players to injuries, maybe even get Alfred back in time for the playoffs. I don't know where things are with him exactly at this point. This team is still like in a good place in terms of their potential to go on a run. This team and they have shown an ability to have a defense that can, on occasion, have a good game. I mean, they beat the Rams in impressive fashion early in the season. This team can do it against good teams. Lately, I get it. They haven't done it even against horrible teams, but they can do it. So if they can get healthy and hit the playoffs, if you get into the playoffs, you've got a chance. Okay. And if you have a good quarterback, you have a chance. In terms of the long term, again, this team went from 5 wins to 8 wins. They're already at 10 wins. And, even if they only get 1 more win or 2 more wins this season, that's still the kind of linear improvement you want with a quarterback who you can win with. I know some people don't agree. I think you can. I think Kyler's a guy you can win with. So they have these pieces, and they can add some piece. I think there's some things they can fix in terms of getting some guys to help on the defensive line in the future. I think that I will say, and this is something I do feel strong about. I am not in the burn it down camp. I don't think you fire Cliff. I don't think you fire Keim. I don't think you move on from Kyler. I think you try to bring back most of the key pieces, because I think they've got the right pieces in a lot of places. And then you fix a couple of problems. You try to get another guard in the draft. You get 1 or 2 good defensive interior linemen to help against the run. And you get another cornerback to help with some depth. And I think you do those things, and you just keep building this thing in the direction it's going, because this is a team that can be competitive. Cliff's got to fix some things in play calling. They've got to get some things straightened out. They've got to add some things to the roster in the future. But that, to me, is the case for not panicking. And then you also add to this something that was brought up earlier. I think it might have, and I apologize if I say the wrong person, but I think Jordan P. mentioned the stat about teams that the best team in the league losing to the worst team and gone on to win. Those teams go on to win Super Bowl. Good teams sometimes have these games. They sometimes have these stretches, and then they get it right. And they win they do well in the playoffs. It does happen all the time. So this is not to me, I don't think long-term, I don't think we should panic. Short-term, I do think there are some concerning signs that if they don't get right, this team could be one and done in the playoffs. Again, Kyler struggles, things like that. That to me is the case for not panicking. Let me give one, maybe 2 more silver lining, optimistic kinds of takes you might take from this. Now, this first one maybe I'm overthinking this, getting a little too cute here, but I think there is the possibility that, as bad as this game is, maybe this is just what this team needed. Maybe they needed to get their ass kicked and have those kinds of come to Jesus meetings, look themselves in the mirror, and whatever things are still not right, maybe they needed to be humbled. And maybe this is something that is going to have long-term sort of benefits in terms of like helping them remember. They say 1-0 mentality all the time. Maybe this will be a vivid reminder of what 1-0 mentality needs to be, right? So maybe I'm overthinking that, but there's a chance that could rather have it happen now than in the playoffs, right? So maybe this helps them in the long run. The other thing, this is a small point. I will say this, and the one player that stood out to me in terms of, I just stood out as far as a silver lining for the future. And this is going to seem a little odd or obscure because this is someone we even talked about it all tonight, but Rashard Lawrence had a couple nice plays against the run. and he wasn't in there the whole game, but he's been injured. But when he was in there, he made some nice plays, against the run and really helped take up some blocks. And we're concerned about this run defense, and the interior defensive line is a big part of the problem. And if you caught the stream with Brett Coleman, that's one of the things he really hit on. And Rashard Lawrence isn't going to be the answer by himself, but I just, in my notes watching the game, one of the notes I had was Lawrence might be part of the answer. He looked good against the run, and maybe next year, or for the next, 5 to 7 years, maybe he is a guy, right, that is part of that solution against run defense. You still need to get some other guys in that rotation with him. But, so those are kind of, my positive spins, my silver linings. So for what it's worth, right? Let's see. The comments. Paul, hey Joseph, this game will not be a part of our history. Yeah, Paul and I are talking about maybe doing some sort of Cardinals history stuff. Maybe more like when the offseason in particular gets here. Maybe we'll see where that goes. We got to talk about that, but this game will not be. Isabella is done. I think Isabella is going to end up he's done with the Cardinals. I think he'll end up on another team. He might end up being a third receiver somewhere and maybe, become a decent player, but I don't think he's going to live up to his draft status, no doubt. I love how Cliff and other coaches blame practice after that loss, saying we needed better in practice. But he said we had a great week of practice. I'm not going to say zero accountability there. I'm just going to say coach speak. Coach. In fact, like players and coaches, they have to deal with the media so much. And if you don't, I'm sympathetic to coach speak, actually. As much as we're like, no one loves, like the answers are all very generic. If you say something that gives a reporter something to run with, they're going to run with it. And like, there's just so many times players or coaches have created bulletin board material or got the wrong side of a headline because they said something that was taken out of context, or they try to expand on something. So I'm not going to fault Cliff or coaches for what they say in those interviews. I'm going to give them a pass on that. So that's my opinion. But, they definitely need to get some things straight. No doubt, though. Do I think Kirk hits 1,000 yards this season? I don't think so. And let me real quick take a look at where he is at. Let me see. Maybe let's see. Yeah, he's let's see, 718 yards. Was that going into this game? It's hard to tell with ESPN if they're updated. So maybe, it's going to be close, I guess, but I'm going to say no. I don't think so. I think he might get in that 900-yard area, but I don't think so. There's nothing wrong with anyone on the team. Will bounce back. No drama queens card. Listen, I will say this. Like, I think this team has a good locker room. I think the team is good in terms of personality. So I agree that there's some things they need to get straight, but there's some good guys in the locker room. So, let's see. I think that Isabella's a decent receiver, just wasn't consistent enough to be on the field. Might hold some value to another team. Yeah, potentially, right? Let's see. Let me just Keenan, thank you for being here. If we win the division at this point, this year is a big one. At this point, it's starting to look like that would be a really positive outcome, right? The way things are trending, I'm not optimistic they're going to do that, but here's hoping. Josh, thank you for being here. Cardinals still winning the division. Better. Oh, hey, I like the optimism. I hope you're right, man. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that, Coach. Let's see. I honestly have never been this angry at this team and coaching. Don't burn it down. Just fix it. Fix it all, because this team does not. Listen, I get being frustrated. Yeah. Good reason to be frustrated. So, I've been a Cardinals fan for a long, long time. So I've seen a lot of things to be frustrated about, but I appreciate that you're like, don't burn it down, just fix it. That's kind of where I'm at, 100%. Marco has been getting exposed every game. He can't. Well, maybe I know there's a lot of Marco haters in here, and rookie cornerback struggle. and he's a 4th-round rookie quarterback, but he's got potential. So, you've had there's a few that come out of the gate well, but a lot of them struggle. So I still think there's some potential for him. He needs to develop some, but I'm still not. I'm not going to give up on Marco Wilson. He in a perfect world, he wouldn't be playing as significant a role in his rookie season, but they've had to do that, right? Let's see. We lose one game. We start talking about draft. Cardinals are going to win the Super Bowl, baby. It's not the Cardinals and the Suns win the finals. It's all good news. I hope you're right, man. But I totally understand the sentiments. Like, come on, we're overreacting. There's still the season isn't over. The team's going to make the playoffs, all but certainly. And anything can happen, and we shouldn't overreact. And I get it. At the same time, we're all processing and coping with a really frustrating loss. So, we're going to be in our feels a little bit. We're going to overreact. That's how it goes, right? So that, so I hear you, but I'm going to give people a little bit of room in their feelings and frustrated and vent. And that's how it goes sometimes, right? We are the 2020 Steelers. Okay, maybe. Yeah, they started out really good and struggled. I hope not, though, right? 3 to 5 years it's been. We are still building and moving forward. And listen, I try to take that big picture approach, right? So they're still. This team has been trending in the right direction. They're going to have a better record than they did last year, and they've 3 years in a row. They've gone again from 5 wins to 8 wins. Now they're at 10. Hopefully they'll get to 11 or 12 or more. That they're trending in the right direction as much as it's been frustrating here. Let's see. Here's need Jesus. I mean, just can Jesus defend against the run? Because if he can, sign that guy up, right? Marco Wilson needs to cover better. He's struggled, right? Yeah, absolutely. But again, he's a rookie, right? We talked about the play calling earlier. Cliff Kingsbury needs to stop playing cutesy football. I don't see us moving into the playoffs unless one more game. I'm not sure we can. I mean, I would like to see them. Yeah, I'd like to see them, go a little more conventional, at least running the ball a little bit more. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. For Rashard Lawrence, there's a Josh Jones. He's struggled. He's been playing out of position a little bit. I think he's more a tackle than a guard, but yeah, we need to draft a defensive tackle. Yeah, at some point in the draft. I mean, if you didn't catch the Brett Coleman live stream Friday, I asked him what does he think the Cardinals should do in the draft, and his take was, in the first round, draft a defensive tackle. Second round, defensive tackle. Third round, another defensive tackle. So maybe I wouldn't go that extreme, but no, I think they needed one. I think in this next draft, I'd like to see them get a defensive tackle within the first 2 rounds. Someone who's going to really be a disruptor and run stopper, and maybe get another one for depth, right? So 100%. Let's see. Let me take a minute. We've gone for an hour, and we'll keep going for a little bit with you, get your questions and comments, but I'm going to switch gears for just a minute and do a couple things that I try to do every stream. First of all, I want to say thanks to my channel members, the folks that, support the channel, in terms of financial support. And these are the channel members that got the Ring of Honor in the starting lineup. So thank you all for your support. And I also want to thank the folks, that have helped with super chats. And I also want to use that as a chance to kind of mention. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got a new microphone here. It's one of the things since the channel got monetized back in September, if you know anything about YouTube, ad revenue helps out, and then there's super chats and the channel members, and it brings in a little bit of revenue. And the channel's brought in a little bit of money, not a ton, but a little bit. And one of the things I'm trying to do is reinvest some of that back into the channel to help kind of improve what I'm doing. So I don't know, hopefully, and you all can tell me if the audio quality seems better or not. But I've invested in this mic, and really what's paid for this is your super chats, and your channel members and your views, with the ad revenue. I also did a couple things with the internet connection. And so I just want to thank you all. And, I intend to try to invest in the channel with your support. And, the next thing I'm going to try to do is upgrade the camera right there. And at some point, maybe upgrade a few other things. But, just want you to know your support of the channel is greatly appreciated. And, that's where I'm trying to send some of it. I want to invest it so I can, help, so the video and the audio and everything I'm making is a little bit better for you and the rest of the folks that are going to be subscribing to the channel in the future. So anyone who, and if you want an upgraded camera is going to be a pretty penny, but so anyone who wants to help support that through super chats or anything like that, that's always appreciated. And I, once I get enough revenue, I'm going to buy a new camera and get a better, visual. So anyway, enough of that, but thank you. I just want to thank you all and let's give you, those of you who've been following the channel, give you an idea of where, how I'm trying to continue to build on what I'm doing. And after the live stream with Brett Coleman, had a really great conversation with him off air and just picked his brain and got some advice from him. And some of that's inspired me to some of the improvements I'm trying to make. So thank you all for the support. Mark had a question here. Let me find where I was at. But wait, we have a super chat. Quick question. First of all, thank you. Hey, and Walter, I see you still in here. I sent you a link if you want to jump on in Twitter. Check your DMs. There's a link if you want to jump on here, Walter. I wasn't sure if you were still in here. But please, if you'd like to jump on, love to have you on here. Quick question. Fire Max Garcia. Oh man, here's the tough part about that. Max Garcia is a backup, and he is a backup with starting experience. He started in Denver. You don't want him to have to be your starter, but he's a decent backup who now in a perfect world, I think he's better at guard. He played as a guard when he started for Denver, and they have, kind of got him in terms of, let's see. Walter just sent me a message. And so, Walter, I'm not sure if I'm able to add you by phone or not. I apologize. So you might, if you don't, sorry. So we might not be able to get you on here this time. I'll look into that for next time. I'm not sure how to do that. Sorry. So like Garcia's like, it's tough because I get how frustrating it is. The bad snap, but like if you better backup centers are going to be starting center somewhere, that's kind of, so that's, I get how frustrating it is with him. He's not been great. But when you're looking at a backup, if your backup is a guy who started games in the NFL and is a veteran, that's still a decent backup. I hate to say, I know that doesn't feel like that. So I don't think I'd love to see them maybe get get a developmental guy. They drafted Michael Manet, who they didn't make the team, but it was like, I think it was 6th or 7th round. Maybe you draft another guy, a center on day 3 again and take another shot at it. But I don't think you fire him as a backup. It's just you want Hudson to be healthy, so you don't need him in there. So that's my opinion for what it's worth. But I get why it's frustrating. But they're backups for a reason, right? Okay. Let's see. Here we go. This is where I want to pick up. I don't think we can get him, but do you think we need Larry? I don't think we need him, using that word. It'd be nice to have him back. He'd help. But I really don't feel like I don't feel like wide receivers one of the top 2 or 3 problems right now. I know it's frustrating the way the game went, but I think we've got good depth at wide receiver. So I don't think that's, I'd love to see Larry back. I know how much we all love Larry. I love Larry. I think he's, all-time great Cardinal. All the superlatives you want to say, I will agree with. But I just don't think he's going to make the difference that we're looking for. It's the offensive line, it's getting healthy. It's cornerback. He'd be nice. It'd be nice to have him in there, but I don't think he's going to come in and totally change it. At least that's my opinion. Let's see. We needed this game and finally get some of those lingering problems fixed. We can't allow this formula to beat us when we're as talented as we are. Execution, play calling need to improve. I agree. I mean, execution, play calling are as simple as that, cliche as it sounds. That is, I think that's the big part of what was. I mean, those I think are the two biggest problems, right? Today, that and the offensive line, you could say their play is part of executing. Ian or Simon, let's see. Speaking of draft, in terms of the rookie play, do you think we drafted well this past year? I mean, it started out looking like that, right? And then Zaven Collins didn't see the field, and Rondale Moore has kind of disappeared a little bit. And Marco Wilson is starting for us, but more out of necessity than out of skill, right? Tay Gown we traded, and so we got Zach Ertz for him. Demikayji's not really doing anything, and Monet didn't make the team. So I don't feel as good about it as I did coming in, right? I mean, I still love Rondale Moore's talent. His big plays have been impressive, but maybe I still am optimistic about Marco Wilson's future as much as we've kind of talked about how much he's struggled. I think Zaven Collins will see him next year more than I think they're giving the Isaiah Simmons treatment, not playing him much this year, but hopefully playing more next year. And again, referring back to the stream with Brett Coleman, one of the things we talked about on there was, they invested heavily in these inside linebackers, but they're not playing or not playing well enough. But maybe they need, if they fix that defensive interior line, maybe that frees up those linebackers to become the kind of playmakers they need to be. So I will, I'm still, there's a little bit of optimism there still about some of these players, but I'm not as optimistic as I was. That's for sure. So yeah. Firing Cliff Kingsbury isn't the answer. We just need to get better and soon if we're going to, I agree. I'm with not firing Kingsbury. Let's see. So Paul thinks Kirk will with D hopping out, and that's possible. I mean, maybe he does. We'll see. Right. And then, things, people don't, he's a 4th round rookie. And so I think for a 4th round rookie, I think he's playing. The fact that he's playing and well enough that he's on the field, I think, and some would argue that he's not, but I think you have to be realistic, and he still has. I think there's a lot of potential, right? Recency bias is a hard thing to fight. Yeah, 100%. I've been at games since ASU days. I remember the painful times. I did not want those to come back again. Wilson is worth it. Just give him. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, again, we're all prisoners of recency bias sometimes, right? Okay. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know if where JJ Watt was for this game. Yeah, I don't know. AJ Green is averaging the 2nd highest yards per catch of his career. I wish he had more effort though. The INT he didn't come involved. The soft body language is awful. I mean, I would say that Green Bay INT thing I think was. I don't think it was an effort as much as it was a mental lapse and being on the wrong. I think it was I think he thought it was the wrong place, but I don't know. I mean, I think he's having a decent year in the, I never like to, I don't know, the effort thing. I have a hard time questioning effort. I get that there's maybe reasons to do that sometimes, but he's also made some plays on 50-50 balls. And to me, that's an effort thing, but I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Jacob, thank you for being here. If we lose out, you still think we make the playoffs? I do think so. In fact, I mean, right now, folks were saying this. I think if the Saints lose to the Bucks, I think the Cardinals are in. And I've kind of been saying this. If anyone is, been to all the streams I do, I've said this before. I think 10 wins is enough to get into the playoffs. They just needed other people to lose. And, with the weeks that we have, with 4 weeks left, I think they've done enough to get into the playoffs. So yeah. Are you from Arizona? I am originally from Arizona. I was born in Mesa, lived in Arizona a lot of my life, but my career has brought me out of the state. I live in Georgia now for what I do professionally, but absolutely. Walter, question, there's a reason why Cardinals are one of the only teams in NFL history win 7 straight road games, let alone by 10. Yeah, I mean, we can't, again, and this also builds on that recency bias thing, right? We can't forget this is not all of a sudden a bad team altogether. They're having a bad stretch. They're playing their worst football of the season, but you don't win 7 straight road games by 10 plus points by luck. Okay. There's talent there. They've got to figure out how to get it right. They've got to figure out how to get it back on track, but there is the talent there. So 100% Walter, you're absolutely right there. Let's see, a couple other things. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. One of the reasons why I support Two Stars, I've never seen anyone else respond to everyone's comments. Gage community, Simon, appreciate it. I try to. I don't get every single comment, but I try to at least get every person at least once. And if I miss you, I apologize. So thank you. I try to respond to every comment. Like if I post a video, like in the chat here, I can't get to every comment sometimes, but like when I post a video, if you comment on it, I'm going to respond, even if it's just an emoji, to the initial response. Sometimes as the conversations go deeper, I don't get back to every comment, but I mean, I don't know. I think I believe want to subscribe to channels like mine is because it's a chance to be part of a community. As someone who makes this, this is also for me a chance to be part of the Cardinals fan base community, especially living in Georgia, a way to connect. So thank you for the support. And I appreciate that, Simon, and you're a really great supporter of the channel. And without further ado, we have the man, the legend, Walter B. Mitchell. Walter, we figured out the technology.
Yeah.
Awesome. How good to see you. In fact, Walter, we've done 4 or 5 podcasts, and this is the first time I've seen your face.
Yeah,
because
right?
we've always done podcasts.
Yeah, I always been told I have a great face for radio.
I like to say I have a face for radio and a voice for silent pictures. So, how are you, Walter? And help as someone who's been a Cardinals fan even longer than I have, help us have perspective.
Well, as I said, there's a reason why the Cardinals won 7 straight road games by 10 points or more. And I think history caught up with them today. There's a reason why only a few teams have won 7 and then couldn't get to 8.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I thought last week it was the silver lining of losing to the Rams was if we play them again, the odds of beating them 3 times in a row this season, I think, are not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Now I like our chances better, actually, if we see them again, because we can take that tape, learn from it, and adjust and come at them the way that we did in L.A. And in a rubber match, and who knows what happens, right?
Yeah.
So, today, here's number one. I think Cliff has to rethink deferring the kickoffs.
Okay.
Because you do that if you can trust your defense to get off the field. But if the defense can't stop the run and you're going to give up half of the first quarter, which has happened to them a few times now, mm-hmm. by deferring the kickoff, you're freezing your own quarterback, right? You're freezing the offense. They're sitting over on the side. They're getting anxious. And now you've decreased the game for them for trying to score the kind of points that they have traditionally been making. And I think it creates an anxiety factor that is not productive for this particular team. I think it would be better to give Kyler the ball to start out. I know BA was a big fan of getting that ball first and coming out fast and hot and building leads and trying to get ahead of the curve. And then you don't have to defend the run as much because, as we've seen in other games, when Cardinals get a 2-score lead, we don't see teams grounding and pounding the way they do when they have, like the Lions did today, coming out of the gates and controlling the ball. And, there's a couple of just really frustrating plays in that opening drive. I mean, Marcus Golden missing that tackle, which would have pinned them deep and gotten the Cardinals the ball back, after only a couple minutes off the clock. And then I was hoping they were going to review that third down catch, which I thought was, inside the chain, the yellow line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the first half, why not use a timeout? And, I thought that was a really close call that they might have been able to reverse. Although here's the other thing. When you play a team like the Lions, who, this is their Super Bowl, to knock off the team tied for the best record, and they're going to throw out all the stops. I mean, even if the Cardinals had challenged that, right? I think the Lions would have gone for 4th and 1, even down in their own territory right there. And they were poised, remember the 49ers game at home when they went for all those 4th downs? And I think teams that are playing the Cardinals are very prone to trying to do whatever they can to keep the ball out of Kyler Murray's hands. And that's so wise and smart. And if you notice the games the Cardinals have lost, that's been the case. They've lost time of possession. They lost the battle of that again today, even though they put up more first downs in the end because, at the end they started catching up a little bit. But, that would be the first thing I think. Maybe Cliff should adjust. I get the romance of getting the ball back in the second half, but it's hurt the Cardinals too because for whatever reason, Kyler has his third quarter interceptions going on right now. Yeah. So it's not as if they're getting the ball back first in the second half and taking it and ramming it down other teams' throats. If it was, then you'd say, okay, well, it's worth the gamble. But I agree with you today, Joe Camo, was Rashad Lawrence stepping up in this game was a really, really big thing for me to see. I thought Lecky Fotu forcing the fumble as well. Zach Allen made some good plays in there. I thought the defensive interior actually played better than usual. But again, our linebackers are just out of sync. Yeah. Simmons had a rough day. Too bad he couldn't make that interception. It was right in his hands. Hicks is still, middle linebacker safety. I don't understand how they play him and why they even condone that. To have an athlete like Zaven Collins standing on the sideline with this defense who can't stop the run, and he's got the highest run stuffing grade of anyone on the team is absolutely out. Yeah, I can't even comprehend how they're even thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And here's my other big thing about this game is taking, Murphy out of slot and putting him at boundary was an adjustment, and he struggled some. I think he can, bounce back, but he's so good where he was. Mm-hmm. It's like we lost at 2 positions there today.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this kid they picked up on waivers is any good. That would be a godsend if he was. I mean, the curse of Rasul Douglas.
Yeah.
How we ever let him out of the building is beyond me. But that's too late now.
Yeah.
But also, I've been dreaming about this for 2 years. What about putting Isaiah Simmons at left cornerback? Who's going to want to run on this guy? And who's going to want to pass against his length and his speed? And he's a kid who's played enough there that he does it in practice. He can step right in there and play it. I think the jury's out. It's like Hassan Reddick. He's not an inside linebacker. He's just not. He doesn't have the instincts. He's got supreme athleticism. He's an aggressive kid, maybe a little too chippy at times. Mm-hmm. But why not see if he can play out there, put Murphy back in the slot, and get Collins in the game next to Hicks, and Collins will make some sticks. What do you think about that?
That's really outside the box. I probably wouldn't do that. I think if linebacker isn't his right fit, I think it's safety, which is tough because they're already really good at safety. So that becomes another problem. So I mean, maybe, but I'm a little skeptical of the outside cornerback. Maybe slot corner, but then that doesn't help your problem because you're talking about Murphy really needs to be slot corner. I want to get your thought. I want to a couple things, Walter. One, some folks sent the Walter Red Rain Mitchell. Yeah, so you got some fans here. Daniel, I want to thank you, Daniel, for the super sticker, and I also, because Daniel had a couple other posts I want to get to, but I want to acknowledge and thank you for that, Daniel. And Daniel seems, through a chain of his comments, he says, that's true. I agree. And yes, sir, we would beat them. So I'm assuming Daniel's agreeing with your point about the fact that the Cardinals, it's better that Rams game, in terms of, and someone, I forget who it was, commented on one of my videos and about that even before the game, like it's hard to go 3-0 against a team. So maybe it's not the worst thing that loss. So, and then I also want to, and again, thank you again for that super sticker, Daniel. I think you had a question. So I'd like to have you answer this next question with Daniel. And then there's another question I'd like to get you in on here, Walter, from another person, a Rams YouTuber who's a really good guy that I know.
Yep.
So here's, I think, it's a broad question, but Walter, what do you, and maybe I would say if you had to bullet point the top 2 or 3 things that you think are priority of what the Cardinals need to work on, what would they be?
Number 1 is the freaking snap. I mean, Kyler Murray is driving me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's his fault, period. He's like, ging, 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 ging. I've never been so nervous on a snap in my life. I mean, stop it. I mean, I never felt that with Colt McCoy the times he played. And when he got in the game, I saw a clear difference.
Yeah.
Clap the ball and get the ball. It's not giving him an advantage. It's putting his offensive lineman at a disadvantage, in my opinion, because it's just so herky-jerky. When are you going to snap the ball? The other thing was today was a day of all kinds of moving parts. I mean, look at last game. The left guard today was different. The center today was different. The right guard today was different. And coordinating all that during the week, unless you're the Green Bay Packers, who have the greatest offensive line coach known to mankind, whoever he is. If you saw their game today, I mean, they played with 4 backups and a rookie and beat the Ravens in Baltimore, scoring 31 points. It was awesome. But that was going to be tough to coordinate because offensive line play takes that's the word, coordination. You have to know, like, how in the world did they not block the edge on that 4th down play, who went running right by DJ Humphries? That guy had a career day against the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. Humphries had a really rough day against them. I'm blocking his name out at the moment, but he had a fantastic game. And he comes in unabated to the quarterback and is athletic enough to track Kyler down when he tried to bootleg out. That was a huge play in the game. And that was a meltdown of some sort. I can't imagine them saying, oh, well, we'll let the edge just get a free rush on this. And what a setback that was. The other thing I thought was they should have kicked the field goal at 10-0. Get off the schneid, get something. The risk reward there. I know everyone now is going for touchdowns, and I think it's a big mistake, particularly early in games. I mean, you can't get a floodgate until you poke a hole, and to be sitting there on the schneid again after missing. And I thought you made a great point today, Joe, on Twitter, where the play calling, once Connor got down to the 5-yard line, was like, did they just want to insist that Kyler get a touchdown pass? It was 4 passes, 2 behind the line of scrimmage, because the flip pass on the jet sweep counts as a pass.
Mm-hmm.
The flip pass to Moore, which blew up in their face, and we'll get to more in a minute. I don't know what's going on with him. And then the one time all day they move Kyler out of the pocket, which I at first was happy to see, but then there were no windows for him to throw to, and he threw to the back end of the end zone on third down. Now it's fourth down. I'm screaming, kick the field goal. Make it 10-3.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get the ball back even, you can tie the score by the end of the half. But then, and the pass to Wesley wasn't even over the goal line.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I know people are talking about Andy Isabella. I would play Isabella at least equal to what they're playing Wesley. I mean, Isabella brings the speed and the shiftiness that the Cardinals could really use because, they're kind of slow at wide receiver. I mean, Green is a burner, and Kirk is so. And unfortunately, he had an up and down day when we really needed him to step up. A drop on a key pass was hurt, and then they misfired on him. But here's the thing with Kyler, and I was wondering whether he's hurt because he did not look like himself today at all. He was overthrowing passes. He was, I don't know, I hope he's fine, but he just did not look like the Kyler that we know. And I don't know if he's favoring the ankle or he's a little skittish about that or whatever, but this was really uncharacteristic of him to play the way that he did. But again, I think that, here's the other scenario was the Cardinals were supposed to win by more than 10 points today.
Right.
So they had that monkey on their back.
Yeah.
So now you've missed half of the first quarter. You haven't had the ball yet. I can imagine the clocks are swimming and you're anxious, and it's really tough to get started that way. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So like the question, when it comes to a question of what they need to work on. So, and I'm kind of defining that specifically of some things like player health is not a thing you can really work on. You just need guys to get healthy. Right. So Kyler needs to get right, because we talked about that earlier. Something isn't right with him, whether it's injury, if he's pressing too much, but I don't think that's a thing you can work on. He needs to work through it.
Yeah.
But I think, and then the run defense, I think it's too late in the season to work on that. I think you can make some personnel adjustments, play Zaven more, hope Rashard Lawrence stays healthy, but you can't work on that at this point. But the things I think they need to work on that they can work on, is penalties, right? The false starts. They need to try to work on that a bit. I think there are things they can do to work on that. I think that's a big thing. And the play calling, which we've talked about all night, right? Running the ball more. And thank you. You referenced a tweet I had that, like, how do you get a goal to go and not give Connor at least one touch, right? So yeah, 100%. I want to get to some of the other questions, comments. I'd like to have you stick around if you're willing to. You're welcome to. But do you want to make sure I want to get people's comments? If you aren't familiar with Payotan, really great dude. He's a Rams YouTuber. I've been on his channel a bunch of times. Great guy. If you aren't already subscribed to him, I know he's not a Cardinals YouTuber, but I think it's good to support other YouTubers and get perspectives. And he's always so great to be in my chats. And got a question, and I'll let you start with this one, Walter. If you have 5 minutes stuck to Kyler after this game, what would you say? And and then I'll follow up after you on that.
Yeah, number one, are you okay? I mean, what's going on? You look like you were laboring in this game, and look more anxious than usual. What's going on with that? Also, we got to straighten out the snap situations. I mean, I know you're trying to get teams to jump off sides or not being able to, get a head start on the snaps, but you're fast enough and elusive enough that if they do get the first jump, you can counter for it. So, but keeping your linemen all on the same page, knowing when you're going to snap it, and so we can avoid these penalties that are setbacks would be awesome. And I don't know if it's your idea, Kyler, or not, but I don't think it's a good idea. You should throw almost every pass from the pocket. I mean, let's use your legs. Let's move you around, man. A moving target's harder to hit. Plus, I think you're overthrowing over the middle for fear of getting the pass blocked. Maybe if we shift you around where we can give you more wide open windows, you can zing the ball in there like you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
So I would ask him about that. I would ask him if he's audibling out of run plays down in the goal line. Because like Joe said, I mean, and I agree with, you've got Connor, who's leading the league or right up there with Jason Taylor, and touchdowns in the NFL. I mean, he's got 13, right? I mean, you're first and goal at the 5. Why aren't you plunging Connor into the line a few times? I mean, I think against the Lions, you got 4 plays to get 5 yards. The other thing is, would ask Kyler and I would ask Cliffness. A lot of their runs are like late developing sideways running runs. I mean, why don't they come right after people? Why don't you just, get it and go? And a lot of them are late developing draws and stuff like that. Okay, occasionally they've worked in a couple. Worked today with Edmonds, and Edmund looked good and crisp. But I'm just not sure why the Cardinals on offense, everything just seems so cute. Like you got to, misdirect and go in different directions. And when you got a guy like Connor, man, give him the rock and let him roll.
Yeah,
let him go.
For me, now, obviously, if I actually, in reality, had 5 minutes to talk to Kyler, he doesn't want to know what I think, right? But under the assumption that I actually had his ear, and for some complete inextricable reason, he actually cared what I think about his play, I would say, first of all, we still believe in you. You're the guy. You have what it takes. I know you know this, Kyler, but you've got what it takes. But there's some things that, the snaps got to be cleaned up. Rely on the playmakers around you a little more in terms of the running backs. But I'd say, just play your game, get right. I probably wouldn't say a lot because he doesn't need me to say a lot, but I almost wish, to be honest, I'd have more to say to Cliff if he were willing to listen. But it's things I've already said and you said about the running game. So great question, Bill. Walter, real quick, I'm going to just kind of acknowledge a few comments and kind of do a quick, just a real quick machine gun fashion, just really quick through here, and then maybe bring up a question. But I want to definitely acknowledge the folks. So let's see. And if I haven't acknowledged you before anyone, I apologize. Not apology. Dre also was horrible tackler, got beat deep. Marco. Yeah. So Dre Kirkpatrick was, is that what you're talking about from last year or, I think that's a conversation about him. Okay. Let's see. Let me acknowledge all the folks that are here that I haven't, if I haven't already. Just Jacob, I know you've been here for a while. But why is it hard to be a Cardinals fan? I feel you, man. That is 100% right. Let's see if I'm trying to make sure I get to everyone who's in here. Again, if I missed your comment from anyone, I apologize. Okay, Howie Dewey, thank you. Todd Bowles, please. Todd Bowles has been a heck of a coach, right? Okay. Jack Dong here has a comment on your idea. Isaiah Simmons at cornerback is like putting like T-Bolt linebacker, so he's not a believer in that. Simmons has got some skills, but I'm skeptical of it. But Wolf Langus, thank you for being here. Lack of physicality in the offense is what he thinks. Defense can't get pressure without blitzing. I think those are both fair assessments. What do you think of those comments, Walter?
Good. Yeah, I mean, Chandler and as Chandler and Marcus go, the Cardinals seem to go. When they get in pressures, good things happen. And I had a feeling they were going to struggle a little today because the Lions' offensive line, people don't realize, that is a formidable group. I mean, they are big and physical and they can move. that Penei Sewell, I mean, he is he's a generational offensive lineman, in my opinion. One of the best I've seen come into the draft in years. And Decker on the other side. Decker's a stud.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to have problems. And I was hoping that not only would Vance dial up more blitzes, but I was hoping they would run blitzing. But the times that he did, I mean, I don't know. I know Buddha had a child this week, and, God bless him. He rarely plays as poorly as he did today. I mean, he missed a number of tackles that he normally takes guys out at the ankles. He wasn't running through his tackles today. He was, jump stopping and then kind of lunging. That's not Buddha. Buddha runs right through the football. And I don't know. He just was sort of out of it today. Although he tried to catch up later in the game and made a couple stops, but even Jalen Thompson kind of struggled. That's one thing. I think you're right. Maybe, you can't change the whole scheme yet against the run, but you can try to dictate and force the action via run blitzes and pass blitzes. And I don't know why not using Gardeck off the edge in rushing situations with his speed.
Yeah.
I would, and then stick Marcus in on the inside and have him run that spy route and maybe do some Texas with the two of them. But because we need a speed edge guy, and Gardeck was so good at it last year.
But, I saw Gardeck in a little bit today. He hadn't been playing. I saw him. I didn't pay close attention, but I saw him in there a little bit. But
yeah, they started him at edge opposite Kennard.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. On two of the biggest plays, why is Chandler Jones downfield in coverage? And why is Devin Kennard covering a wide receiver? Can anyone please explain that?
I'd have to look closer, but something wasn't right in terms of the scheme. I think another thing, and part of trying to fix that, in addition to those run blitzes, is some tweaks to the player personnel. You talked about bringing Gardeck in this comment here, when we've talked about Collins in there more. I mean, with the way things are going, get him in there, right?
Yes.
And then Nate, or not Polo G, says, try Simmons at edge, slot, corner, safety. He needs to be everywhere in the field. I think those are all three positions I like him better at than outside corner, not to totally throw dirt on your idea.
An outside corner.
Yeah, haven't seen it. That's fair.
I saw him there at Clemson.
Okay.
And he looked like a faster, bigger version of Richard Sherman to me.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, because look at his length and look at his speed and his athleticism. The only thing I don't like about that, and I'm it's sort of a fantasy of mine, and it probably won't happen, so don't get all worried about it. But because of, I always was fascinated with Richard Sherman, what he did as a tall corner, and I like tall corners to have that as an option. But because I want him closer to the ball, and I want him closer to the middle of the field. It's just that what he really is, he's a strong safety. And it's typical Cardinals, why mess with their safety tandem? Now, although you could develop a hybrid kind of defense where you play two strong safeties, one on each side, and have either Thompson or Buddha in the deep middle, or rotate those guys around. I mean, Simmons also can play deep safety. He did it really well at Clemson. He's done it a few times here with the Cardinals. But interchanging those three could be fantastic. So I agree with you there. And I think that they're probably never going to put Simmons. But in a matchup, right, going against, like, I put him on DJ Metcalf in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, who else on our team's going to cover DJ Metcalf? I mean, Robert Alford did a great job, and it just breaks my heart that he'd made it this far, and he was obviously he was hurting in the last game. That was you could tell he was laboring. And hopefully they can bring him back, but they're going to need to add another corner, don't you think, next year?
I think they need to bring another corner in. Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to see Robert Alford back. Obviously, Murphy here. I'd like to see them continue to develop Marco, but I'd like to see them also bring in another, whether it's a free agent or they draft someone, let's say in somewhere between rounds 2 and 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they need to. I want to acknowledge a few folks. See, Jaden Puckett, thanks for being here. Connor needs the ball. We 100% agree. We kind of talked about that. And Edmonds. I mean, they just need to run the ball with both of them. They both have been effective, but Connor obviously is the one who I think has been more effective. But yeah, again, play calling is the biggest problem. I feel like today it was that, and second was to me, Kyler's being off with the throws. To me, those were the two biggest things today. Ian saying give Connor 20 carries, Edmonds 10 to 15, maybe. Somewhere, maybe I might say 15 carries for Connor and 10 to 15 for Edmonds for me. And, that's probably what I would favor. I mean, Connor had 8 carries and Edmonds had 6. So, now part of that was they were from behind, but they should have been running it from earlier. Let's see. Now, Walter doesn't have a YouTube. Tim's asking, Walt, so to post. Walter has a podcast, the Red Rain podcast on Revenge of the Bird, I believe is where they can find that.
RevengeOfTheBirds.com.
So if you go to RevengeOfTheBirds.com, you'll see his podcast links to it there, and you can follow it from there. Does great work, and and I'm not saying that just because I've been a guest on there. Always enjoy talking football with Walter. Let me just make sure we
get the Red Rain is on the morning after games. It'll post usually around, I tape it at 8:30 Eastern time. My producer, Kyle Ledbetter, is awesome. And he usually gets it to Arizona time around the same, about 8 o'clock, 8:30 AZ time. And then I also post it on Twitter at WBJ Mitch.
Awesome. Okay. And if you aren't following him, at WBJ Mitch on Twitter. So if you aren't following him, and if you follow him on Twitter, you can get links to everything. He posts stuff on there. So absolutely. I want to say hey to a few other folks that are in here. And if I missed you again, so one other person I think AJ Bazin. So Falcons lost. We need Saints to lose for a playoff clinch. Yeah, that's my understanding. And they're playing the Buccaneers. So I think, listen, we all thought the Cardinals were going to beat the Lions today, but the Buccaneers have a good chance of helping us out there. So here is hoping.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we get to everyone. I think everyone who's in here, I have at least acknowledged one of your comments. I apologize if I can't get to all of them. Walter, do you have any other final thoughts that you want to add? We got the stream here has gone an hour and 47 minutes, so probably gonna wrap it up in the near future. But any other thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah. Well, Marco Wilson, love the kid, love the effort. Played much better last week. Was backed off this week. I have no idea why. One of your posters said better in tight man coverage. 100% agree. The more aggressive you can play him, the better. He got called for the PI, which I thought was ticky-tack. I didn't think he really was affected that play much. That was too bad because it was late in the game, but when we needed the ball back. But love the kid, love the effort. He just needs to get his first interception and get a taste of, running with his gang down to the end zone. And he's come close. He was so close against the Rams, and I'm really high on him, and he's played well for a rookie. So today, scheme-wise, I'm not sure what they were trying to accomplish, but a lot of wide open guys too. That's the thing with me about Vance Joseph and his defense is that these lapses. Jared Goff. The expression you got mossed. Well, the Cardinals got goffed again today for the 6th straight time. You know, in all 6 games that Goff's beaten the Cardinals against Kingsbury Joseph, his team scored 30 plus points. Talk about reversing the script on the Cardinals. 30 plus points. He averages 312 yards per game. His touchdown interception ratio is 11-1. And his completion percentage is in the high 70s. If you add it all up and all that he's done against the Cardinals, if Aaron Rodgers says, I own you, Chicago. Well, Jared Goff could say, I own you, Arizona.
That's not a guy you want to have own your team.
No, and I don't know what it is, why Vance can't scheme against the guy properly and why they can't get home on him. And then, of course, the bootlegs that we watched ad nauseum when he played for McVay, where he had wide open, they broke contain every time because the Cardinals, other than Hassan Reddick, let me not get into that. Other than Hassan Reddick, we don't have guys who play contain at all, really. I was hoping Gardeck would do it if they put him on the edge, but Goff just tell me what it is. I mean, what is it about this guy?
I don't think it's any. I think it's just it's an anomaly that we have some really bad games against his teams. I don't know. I mean, I think the part of that was the McVay era that we struggled against, right? And then now this. So yeah, and this was just a bad game that wasn't about Goff, right? I want to say, hey, Bradley, I'm tired of raising my hopes for Cards. Listen, I feel you. Been here a long time as a Cards fan. Walter Sue, we know it. I want to Lance, thanks for being here. Murray held the ball too long, didn't throw check downs, wide open players. Yeah. I think there was that one play where he threw it like out of bounds along the sidelines. He was under pressure, but there was a guy underneath, right? That looked like he was open past the first down marker. So stuff like that. We got a question here, and I think we'll probably end the stream after this question. We're approaching the 2-hour mark, which has been fun and it's flown by, but, which playoff matchup scares you the most? An Arians reunion, division showdown, or Dallas or Green Bay?
I'm going first.
If you'd like, I can, but I try to let my guests go first
this time.
Okay. So for me, I think the playoff matchup I worry about the most is probably Tampa Bay. One of these teams we're talking about that we have not played this year. Yes, we lost to Green Bay in a close game. Doesn't mean they wouldn't beat us again, but I think this team can beat them. We'll have played Dallas. Yes, Dallas's running game could be a bigger matchup problem, but having not played Arians and knowing that Tom Brady is Tom Brady, that's the one I would feel the least confident about the Cardinals.
Right. Although I think in some ways it would be the sweetest, at least for me. I'm thinking all week about the Arians Rams curse. Why he ever did that woke the Rams up, and ever since he did with that Monday night or whatever it was, national TV saying best the Rams ever are 8-8. Ever since then, they have kicked our butts and risen to the top of the NFL with an outstanding coach. And then every time we play them, we get key players hurt. It's just a wicked curse. And so nothing would feel sweeter for me than to dial up Tampa. And let's be realistic. It would probably have to be in Tampa because look at their schedule down the stretch. I mean, it'd be a shocker if they lost any of those games. I mean, they got the Panthers twice. They got the Saints, banged up Saints team tonight. And the other opponent, I forget who it is, but when I saw it today, I was like, oh, forget it. They're going to run again. The thing is now, which I'm really happy about, is they'll win out again like they did last year, but I I don't think this time around they're going to win out and run the table. At least I hope not. I don't think they're quite as strong and cohesive as they were last year.
Yeah.
But, I want to play the Rams again. I'd love to see a first-round matchup. I don't care if it's in LA. I don't care if it's in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to rematch with them because we need to reverse the curse somehow. And we only can do that by playing them. We got them this year. Thank God. It was such a great game. I savored that win like no other. And we dominated that game from the beginning. And I think we're capable of it again, but we've got to tighten some things down, and we got to get better at situational football, which has gotten away from us a little bit in recent weeks. But so I'd like to see the Rams. I'm just happy to be in. I mean, we should enjoy this. I mean, I know we're all a bundle of nerves, and I know we're all dreading this late season meltdown, but we're going to be in the playoffs, and I'd like in these next few games, I want to see Zaven Collins. I want to see Andy Isabella. I want to see guys on this team who could make contributions that have not been given an ample chance. And I'd like to see, what they can do with this. I'd also like to see Josh Jones get some snaps at tackle. I'd like to see them kind of build towards, what they're going to be doing next year as well, because I think if the real window, I mean, hopefully this year they'll cash in, but the real window, I think the best window they'll have is next year with a healthy JJ Watt, with, and other things, components, and a year older, so.
I want to build on something you said, Walter, and probably end on this point. We're all really disappointed about the way this game went. Obviously, I mean, we've said that for an hour and 56 minutes and 28 seconds at this point. And I get that as fans, there's this kind of mentality of, kind of no nonsense. This team needs to step it up. And I get that frustration, disappointment, and these kind of fatalistic, the world is crashing down feelings. This team is same old Cardinals. But you said this thing, this kind of made this comment about enjoying it. And, you've been a Cardinals fan longer than I have. I've been a Cardinals fan for a pretty long time. So we both have seen enough football and Cardinals football to know when these windows come, sometimes they disappear very quickly.
Right.
Like, the Cardinals Super Bowl in 2008 or 2000 to cap off, I think the 2008 season, 2009, if ended, and they didn't get back. And right. The Carson Palmer kind of Cardinals were good for a little while, but didn't, and then it disappeared quickly. And my kind of word to everyone, and this is the man with the gray hair and his beard trying to give a little bit of wizened advice, sage advice, if you would allow me to. Don't spend this season and this playoffs being consumed by being frustrated and angry about how things are going wrong. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the moments. Enjoy the games. Even if it doesn't go the way we want. I want to remember the 2021 NFL season of the Arizona Cardinals as the season where I saw some amazing plays, a team that got me excited, the team where I woke up every day, every game day, believing my team had a chance legitimately, and a team that had hope, where there was hope that this team could win a Super Bowl. I get being disappointed. I get being critical, but don't let yourself, like this, 10 years from now, you're going to look back on this year and you're going to eat, regardless of what happens. My hope is that you look back and have good memories, because as painful as some of those bad memories are of like that Super Bowl, and I still have nightmares about tackling James Conner or James Harrison and not tackling him and all that. But I also remember the feeling of rooting for this Cardinals team and hearing Kurt Warner saying, like, the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl. Do you believe that? I forget what his exact quote was, but how magical that run was. So enjoy the ride, because you just never know when the ride's going to end. So that's my thought. So as frustrating as this is, everyone, do not spend the next 4 weeks of the season and however many weeks we get in the playoffs being upset about what's going on. Take in every good moment, enjoy it, because we don't know when it'll be back. So thank you, everyone, for being in the chat. Walter, thank you for jumping on. It's always good chatting with you, my friend. We'll do this again. Everyone in the chat who's been here, thank you. Thank you for all your comments. If I didn't get to one of your comments, I apologize. But let's go Cardinals, everyone. If you didn't click like, please do so. That always helps. Thank you all, and we're going to end the stream. See you all next time. Peace.